Alright, we are facing the Reti opening with knight to f3, so I'm going to play c6, which is what I normally play against the Reti. And so my opponent's going for this kind of King's Indian setup. But the reason I like going for the Caro Kann structure is because very simply, we are, from move 2, saying to this bishop, yeah, you're never getting out. You are never getting out. And that's going to be the main game plan. So we're going to develop this bishop to f5, bring the knight to f6, probably play e6. We could attempt to play e5, but it seems very unlikely. And effectively here, we're throwing the ball back into White's court and saying, okay, if you don't manage to play e4 or c4, opening up the center, then your light squared bishop is going to be blunted by my pawn chain for the rest of the game. And then how are you going to have an advantage? That's the argument that we're making. And so these moves, bishop f5 and knight to f6, are played to stop any pawn to e4 ideas. And you might be saying, okay, Alex, but what about pawn c4? Pawn c4 is the main sort of pawn break because, again, normally we clamp down on the e4 square. And while it is true that on c4, in many lines, you can take the pawn on c4 and be slightly better with black, they're very theoretical lines, and I'm really not a fan of them. I think I've tried it a couple times online, and the computer says, oh, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. And then I play a normal-looking move, and then I'm completely losing. So, like, you know, opening up this diagonal, because we have to play b5 to hang on to the pawn if we take. And we're getting ourselves into all sorts of trouble. So instead, I prefer just going for e6. Now, we do need to consider, right, if we play e6, then there could be ideas of knight to h4 hunting down our bishop. And we don't really want to be giving this bishop away, because then White's light squared bishop will be uncontested. And obviously, we're trying to keep the center as shut as we possibly can on the light squares to counteract that. But we don't want to give away our bishop for no good reason, essentially. Now, on knight to h4, though, we do not lose the bishop. Although, well, we do lose the bishop if White really wants it, but White has to make some serious concessions, and the idea is to go bishop to e4, offering a trade of the bishops, because the knight isn't yet on c3 controlling the e4 square. Okay, and my opponent goes queen to b3 instead. So obviously he's trying to put pressure on the b7 pawn, since our bishop developing means that we no longer control this square. And this is a very normal idea in a lot of Caro and Slav structures, where White's c-pawn moves, our bishop comes outside of the pawn chain, and this queen comes to b3 with pressure. And there's kind of 3 different ways we can deal with this. b6 is not one of them. Again, we don't want to weaken this diagonal, and also why is the pawn on b6? It weakens this diagonal as well. So again, we're keeping the pawn chain intact. It basically means we either move our queen to c7, c8, or b6. And personally, I prefer the b6 square. That's just my personal preference. I pretty much always put the queen on b6. c7, I think, is probably wrong because of a simple d4, preparing bishop to f4, chasing the queen. And then we're just wasting time, and White is developing with tempo, so that makes no sense to me. And the only thing we really need to watch for in these positions is like a d4, c5 thing, where White can try and force us to take his queen, because our queen will be under attack. And if he takes back with the a-pawn, you might think, oh, we're doubling the white pawns. No, it's not good. It's not good. This pawn can be used as a battering ram to open up the diagonal anyway, and opening this rook up is not a good idea. So here, I would be thrilled if White would take me, allow me to take back with the a-pawn and open up my rook. I mean, theoretically, we could take the knight, and after rook takes and rook takes bishop, sorry, and rook takes a2, we could go up a pawn immediately. Now, my opponent would probably see that and have to waste time with a move like a3, but the point is my rook would be very active. So neither of us want to allow the other to open up the a-file, so I don't want to take White, and White doesn't want to take me. Now, I'm going to try and force White to take me, but I think he's also going to try and force me to take him. So I think the idea of d3 is that after knight bd7, I think he wants bishop to e3, attacking my queen and trying to force me to take his queen. So in that position, it's slightly uncomfortable. We could hang around with a move like Queen A6, just keeping an eye on the pawn. And it doesn't look terrible, but it also doesn't look great. I guess there's also Knight H4 ideas now, because there's no bishop to E4, so we have to bear that in mind. So, okay, if we were to go Knight BD7, he may not even go Bishop E3. He may go Knight to H4. After Bishop G4, H3, Bishop H5, G4, Bishop G6, take and take. We have good pressure on H3. I mean, it's not that hard to defend, but White is maybe overextended. Maybe trading off our bishop isn't the end of the world. We also have ideas of Knight C5, trying to force this queen to make a decision. And if we secure this trade, that's brilliant. So I guess the key move is not Knight H4. Because on Knight... no, we can't go Knight C5 there. We have to consider Bishop to E3. That would be the key move. But I think we can get away with Bishop C5. Because if take, we don't take with the queen allowing Queen B7. We take with the knight, attacking the queen. And if Queen takes B6 and A takes B6, we get everything we want. So I think Knight BD7 is the move. Now, if Bishop E3, Bishop to C5, we are threatening to win a pawn as well. And if D4, attacking our bishop, I guess we have to be wary of pawn C5 as a follow-up. So like the bishop can't go to D6 because of pawn C5. If we take on C4, he takes our bishop with tempo on our queen. If we take his queen, he takes our queen. We're down a piece. That's no good. But I suppose bishop E3, bishop C5, pawn D4, bishop E7, pawn C5. Do we go queen B3? AB3? Pawn A6. It's not terrible. We have the E4 square for our knight. It's interesting. It is interesting. Do we want to invite this? Can we consider Knight C5? Can we consider that? Because if bishop takes D4, we can just take that. That's interesting. So rather than bishop C5, what about Knight C5? Because if D4, we win the queen. So Knight C5. Again, if he takes us, I mean, that just looks good. That just looks good. I don't know. Knight C3, preparing knight to A4. Maybe it's not that good, but bishop back to E7. Knight to A4. We can always go Queen C7 there. And then there's no bishop F4. And then B7 is protected, and we don't have to open up the A file for white. Even if we do, I don't think it's that big a deal. I don't think. Okay, let's go Knight C5. It looks natural to me. And if the queen moves to C3... I mean, our knight is pinned, so we're obviously... We have to do something, because otherwise B4 is coming. I guess maybe Queen C7. Maybe Knight A4, Bishop B6, Knight C3, Knight C3, A B6. That's interesting. Okay, goes Queen C2. Similar idea. Note this pawn is pinned to the queen, but if we take, the queen can just take, so doesn't really solve anything. B4 isn't on the way because we can take that. But he's obviously keeping an eye on the B2 pawn. So can we go Knight to G4, hitting the bishop? That's the question. Trying to force this trade, which looks good. So if Knight G4, if he goes D4, we take, and if he takes, we take, and if he takes, we take. And we just clean up all of his pieces. That should be winning. So Knight G4, the bishop has to do something. If bishop to D4, just getting out of the way, that probably looks good. E5, sacking a pawn. Knight takes, bishop takes. That doesn't look very good. We don't have any compensation. So knight g4, bishop d4. We could try and prepare this, but that feels very weird. Feels very weird. Here. What else is there? Is there anything else? I'm not sure. Not sure. So perhaps it's easier just to drop our queen back to unpin the knight. And if bishop f4, we can go bishop d6. Take. The knight is defended, just. We could also take the bishop as well. And knight a6 will always defend the queen if the c-file opens, so that's not really too big of an issue. Okay, so we have queen c7. We also have a5. Stopping b4. That's interesting, actually, taking some space. That looks nice. If knight h4 going after the bishop. Bishop g4. I don't think I mind that. Let's go a5. This looks positionally strong. If knight to c3... Well, okay, so first if he takes here, opening up an attack on the knight, I assume we just take back, and then I don't see a follow-up. d4, that unpins the knight, so we can just move the knight to e6 even in that position, and the knight's very good on e6. Or, actually, there's e4. Also, we can't push the pawn because his queen hangs. So actually, d4 is no issue at all. And a5 is made to prevent any b4 ideas. Obviously, our queen was controlling the b4 square anyway, but we don't want b4 to come at all. And also, taking space can't be a bad thing. I'm not developing my dark square bishop yet, because I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with it. I guess his next move is to develop this knight. I guess c3 or d2. d2 doesn't make much sense unless he's trying to come to b3. But I guess if knight d2, we can go pawn a4, stopping knight b3. Maybe that allows b3, though. Trying to open the position up. Which we don't want, because we're not castled yet. So, okay, not a4. So if knight bd2, the knight is trying to come to b3. So, in that case, maybe we need to move our queen out the way. Because then if knight b3, our knight isn't pinned anymore. And we could take, but again, I don't really want to open up the a-file. Although we do have a nice square on b4 for the bishop. It's a nice outpost. Castle. It's interesting. Interesting. The knight on c3, I'm just not sure about. Because it's trying to come to a4, and it's applying pressure to d5. But d5 is very secure. Which is why I'm playing this Caro Kann setup, right? So if knight c3, queen... We do have the a6 square. Ooh, that's interesting. We don't have to go back to c7. We could go to a6. Applying pressure to all these pawns. And we have a lot of pressure on those pawns. We have like 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces aimed at them, right? We'll have the bishop, the pawn, the knight, and the queen. And I would argue the queen is safer on a6. But we obviously need to be concerned about c takes d5, opening up the queen on the knight. If the queen's on c7, then we can meet that with c takes, and then the queen defends. And if rook c8, pawn b6, there's no b4. So preventing b4 is probably a good idea. Although if knight c3, queen a6, take, then the queen can't see the knight. And also, if the queen's on c7, maybe there's knight b5 ideas. So, okay, there's a lot to consider. And we're certainly not out of the woods yet. These sort of, I don't know what to call them. It's not a Catalan, because the pawn isn't on d4. But it's like a King's Indian attack, Reti sort of thing. King's Indian attack, I suppose. They can be very difficult to deal with. I mean, very difficult to deal with. So, there are going to be ideas that we really need to be careful of, but I do like this move a5. And a knight on c5 is a bit weird. I do want to get it out of there when I can. But I think this is okay. I think this is okay. Knight bd2, I think, is the move that I'm most concerned about. I'm not really fussed about knight h4, I don't think. Going after my bishop. I mean, obviously, if I allow this, then d5 will be destabilized. I don't want that. But if knight h4, bishop g4, if white wants to win my bishop, he's going to have to extend on the king side. And maybe that's okay. But I don't mind that. I don't mind that. We have pressure on h3. Maybe I can even just walk my king to the g8 square rather than castling. I don't know. I can always castle if I want to. My opponent's also ticking down on the clock, which is obviously good news because it gives him less time to think. I'm a bit confused because I don't see any wins for him. Now, I think what he's probably thinking is like, damn, I've got this pressure. I've got this pressure. There has to be something. But I just don't think there is. I don't think there is. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But it looks okay. Perhaps what he's thinking is that he needs to take here at an opportune moment and then put a knight on b5. And knight d4 seems to be trying to do that. So, okay, the obvious move is bishop g6. Now, why would he allow that? Is it because of knight b3? Pressure on the knight? I can always drop this knight back. So I think that's fine. I think that's fine. If take, opening up the queen's attack, what does that accomplish? Takes. I have rook c8 if I need it. I have knight back to d7 if I need it. I'm not sure. Can't go knight b5. I control that square. Can't go b4. I control b4. The knight looks a bit misplaced. I mean, it's not going to stay on d4. It has to move. Because otherwise, I mean, e5, d4, and white could be in trouble. The knight should have been on f3 guarding the e5 square in my mind, or trying to go into e5. On d4, it looks a bit misplaced. And I mean, if knight b3, it is annoying. Sure. But rook c8 looks alright. Knight back to d7 looks alright. I'd rather not bring the knight back to d7, obviously, but if I have to, I can. What's the idea? What is the idea? Because if he's trying to apply more pressure to the knight, great. But why not do it with this knight? And get this knight to b3 or a4? I guess maybe because knight d4 comes with tempo on the bishop. Can't really be giving up my bishop like this because, as I said, it destabilizes d5 massively. But our opponent is also burning a lot of time trying to figure this out. Maybe there's a win. Maybe there's a win, but I don't see it. I feel like the best white can get is just a lot of pressure. So, okay, rook c1. Preparing to open everything up on the knight. Of course. If I move my knight, he's going to take on e6 with tempo on the queen. Sure. Now, what happens on pawn to e5? That's the question. Because if the knight moves, I play d4, I'm probably better. Probably better. Because now the c-file stays shut. So if e5, he has to take on d5 to open the position. But then I take the knight, threatening the bishop, so he takes back. And I'm up a piece, but my knight is very weak. I play knight back to d7, defending the knight, I assume. He takes on c6. I take on c6. c6 is very weak. Then what? I don't know. Maybe that's too much pressure. Maybe that's too much pressure to allow. What about knight g4? Chasing the bishop. Because this capture always comes with tempo. That might be the missing ingredient. Knight g4. If bishop f4, then e5 with a fork. If the bishop moves, white's tactics no longer works. There's no pin. And my knight's defended by the bishop, so when he takes, doesn't come with a threat, because I get like the queen for 2 pieces, worst case scenario. So knight g4, how does white deal with that? Let's say bishop d2, pawn e5, knight f3. Maybe he's trying to bait me forwards? e3? I don't know, it doesn't look very impressive. I feel like knight g4 is just better for us. Let's do it. Let's do it. I wouldn't play this if this capture didn't come with tempo on the queen, but to me that's the key ingredient. Because now, like, white can't ignore this, basically, which means my calculation is far easier. Because if he tries to create more attacking opportunities, I will simply take the bishop, and then my knight is well defended. There's no pin anymore. I can move the knight if I want. And e5 is on the way. Now, e5 obviously weakens d5, but if I get e5 followed by d4, I don't know if that's amazing or not, but this attack looks decent, to be fair. I feel like I've got good attacking opportunities. And I'm not sure how white attacks me on the queen side either, because I have good control with the a-pawn. Yeah, bishop d2, that's just passive. I'm already looking at knight f2 ideas because of this stuff, but I'm not sure they work just yet. e5 looks correct. e5, I don't see a downside. Because these ideas are not really scary anymore, I don't think. Because after takes. Again, there's no pawn b4. My bishop defends the knight. I think I'm fine. So the knight probably has to move. If the knight goes to b3, I take and then I attack f2. So white's in a lot of trouble. If the knight goes back to f3, can I get away with this? Knight f2, king f2. Oh my god. Knight takes d3, discovered check. Well, double check, sorry. King has to move, and then I mate on f2. Yeah, I just mate on f2. Damn, okay. The white position is getting difficult to handle now. How on earth does he defend? If knight here, bishop here. Knight back with tempo on the bishop. Bishop has to move again. What? What? What am I missing? I guess, I mean, I don't have a checkmate, but... Okay, let's just consider for 1 second. Let's consider. I don't have to take the knight. I could do something else. The thing is with knight f2, if king takes, then again, knight takes d3, double check, I win. But white has options. He can take my knight. I guess then I take, and if take... Still complicated. Still complicated, because my bishop is under attack. Knight takes d3, discovered check, my bishop's defended. King moves, I take the rook, that looks pretty good. So if knight f2, you can't take my knight. If bishop to do e3, knight here, take here. Oh, I have smothered mate there. Oh, do I have smothered mate ideas? If I take, queen takes, I guess, is the idea. Because then I can't play knight f2. I have to go queen f2, king h1. b7 is under attack. I have bishop c5, though. Threatening queen g1, rook g1, knight f2 checkmate. That is pretty nice. Oh, this can't be bad. I mean, there's no way white has enough counterplay here. There's no way. There's no bishop e3 intermezzo, I take it. If d4, I take it. If c5, I take it. In some manner. This looks... Obviously, I'm looking for a quicker checkmate, but I feel like I don't need to think too hard here. My knight is so well placed on g4 for the attack. And after he takes on b3, it doesn't matter what he takes with, really. I mean, if he takes with the pawn, I can consider knight f2, because then there's no queen takes b6, right? But I don't think it really matters. Even if here I can take with the queen, king moves, bishop c5. I don't see how white defends that. Because I'm threatening queen g1 check, sacking the queen, rook takes, and then knight f2 checkmate. So let's take. We're up a pawn, but more importantly, the white king is in a lot of trouble. Bishop c5. I don't see the defense. I don't see the defense. This is not quick enough. He might be missing this idea. He might be missing that, which is a beautiful checkmate. And if h3, trying to give the king some room, then queen g3, if he takes, then queen h4 check, bishop h3, and queen h3 checkmate. The escape squares are covered. That's the other idea. I think this is just a forced mate. This is just a forced mate. Because I have mate in 2 if white does nothing. Which again, maybe he doesn't quite see. Because it is a weird pattern. But I'm just freeing up the f2 square for the knight. Because I would have taken on f2 with the knight rather than queen takes. But then he takes my queen, so I can't do that. And the absolute worst case scenario is I'm up a pawn. I guess d5 is weak, but I just have... I'm sure I have a checkmate here. Knight c3, queen g1, rook g1, knight f2 checkmate. It's a beautiful checkmate. Bishop e1 can't be played because then queen g1 is mate because the rook is cut off. If bishop e3, I mean, I just take it. If pawn d4, I just take. And then the threat is renewed. I guess e3 does defend. Because now queen g1 can be met with king g1. I guess that might be a defense, to be fair. Yeah, he finds it. Okay. Alright. That's interesting. I completely missed that defense. Now, does it work, though? Does it work? I mean, surely not. So, obviously I can take the pawn. But the question is, do I take with the bishop or with the knight? If I take with the knight, bishop takes, queen b7, I have no threat. Okay, so if I take with the bishop, the threat is here, here, and mate. So, and also the bishop is hanging. So if bishop takes, is the threat queen takes, followed by knight f2? Maybe. But knight takes threatens the bishop. Okay, I think bishop takes makes the most sense. Again, if rook f1, we have this, which again, he might not see. I don't know. He is ticking lower on the clock. We're up 2 pawns. And the white king is in a lot of danger. And if the white queen ever takes on b7, like she can't right now because I have a checkmate threat. But if she ever does, I can just castle. Okay, bishop e3. What do I take back with? Well, knight takes threatens this, but queen takes threatens the rook and a smothered mate. If rook f1, knight here, here, I have smothered mate. So I think queen takes. If h3, check here. Oh no, the rook is hanging. Ah, yeah, the rook hangs. So this should just be winning after queen takes. Yeah, because it's just smothered mate. Damn, no way. If rook c2, queen here, here, and that's mate. Rook c2 trying to cover f2, of course. If queen here, then here, 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 and mate. Which is such a nice checkmate. You don't normally see it with the bishop on g2 like this. Normally it's with the pawns on h2 and g2. My opponent is sticking lower on the clock. We are up 2 pawns. Obviously, the diagonal that the white light squared bishop is on is very good in theory, but it's irrelevant because of how weak the white king is. I'm not seeing a way for white to defend this. Queen c2, check. I don't have smothered mate, but I could go knight d3. He goes rook f1. Yeah, so if here, he's going to have to sack the rook. I guess he's just resigned to that fact. Do I have any other moves? Bishop d3, queen b7. I feel like I'm playing with fire. There's just no need. Yeah, if queen here, if rook takes, I have mate, but there's king takes, so that doesn't work. I think this is easy. Because the queen can't take on b7 because of queen to e1 check. Bishop has to block, and then I take with checkmate. So b7 is still not hanging. If you take this, same scenario. So knight c3 looks forced. Yep. You just have some counterplay with like rook f1, to be fair. I guess I just castle, surely. I mean, what am I up? What am I up? A rook? No, an exchange. And a couple pawns. That's fine. That's fine. That's just castle. You know, bishop d3 might be a move. I might be able to take on c4. Maybe I can move my queen. Maybe I can save my b-pawn. All of these might be moves. But I just want to be safe. I just want to be safe. So I'm just going to castle. I don't want complications. We've already had the complications. I'm now winning. I'm up so much material. An exchange and 2 pawns. That's a lot of material. Even if I lose both pawns that I'm up, I'm still up an exchange. That's enough to win. cd5. Bishop d3. Take. Take. Knight takes. Knight e7 isn't a concern. Let's just take so there's no passed pawn nonsense. Knight takes. Yeah, I'm not really concerned about that. a4 looks interesting. If queen b7, rook b8, infiltrating. If rook f1, I'll just move my queen. I could move my queen here. Here, take. Queen here. What about rook d8? I guess maybe I'm walking into issues with this being taken and then rook f1 with pressure on f7. So maybe the easiest move is just a4, forcing white's hand. Because I want him to take on b7 and allow me to infiltrate with threats. That's what I want. If the queen doesn't take, where does she go? She has to keep an eye on the pawns, really. So let's say queen c3. Well, then I get rook c8 with tempo. Rook's coming to c2. That's perfect. I don't really care about the e5 pawn, I don't think. Also, white is really low on time. This is about prioritization now and consolidation, because this endgame should be winning, but of course, white has a lead in development. Although I'm up a lot of material, my rooks are not participating in the game, so I need to bring them into the game, and then my material advantage will be felt. I could also consider queen d4, offering a queen trade. That looks pretty safe. Do I want a queen trade, though? Look how weak white's king is. I mean, here. Here, take. It looks pretty good. Rook f1. Am I creating unnecessary complications? Maybe. This just looks simple. Take, here, take, here, take. Maybe I take with the F pawn. Yeah, and then I have rook F2. Yeah, let's go for a queen trade. I mean, it looks like white's forced to accept the queen trade. I'm not sure what else he does. He can throw in knight e7 if he wants, but I'm not sure that changes anything. Also, white's very low on time, so even if there are endgames where he can try and hold with the bishop and rook versus 2 rooks, they're going to be very difficult to figure out, and he doesn't have the time. He only has 20 seconds, as we can see. So the time is absolutely a factor in my decision to trade the queens. But yeah, he declines, which makes sense. Okay. b5. Defending b2. I could take here. Queen takes. Well, that offers another queen trade. So I feel like that has to be a good idea. If knight e7, king h8, knight g6, I have to take with the queen. Goes queen b4. Stopping bishop e4, that's a good move. But I guess I just come back. If here, then here. This check is annoying, though, isn't it? It's an annoying check. I could go b5, but then I open up the diagonal. My opponent is playing well. He's making good moves. E4, locking his bishop out the game is interesting. Although he goes knight e7, wins my bishop, and then goes bishop e4. That's annoying. Rook here. I'm going to go rook a8. I have some ideas with the back rank. Maybe. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to force his hand with this. I want him to go into this. I want to get pieces off the board. Do I take back with the F pawn, the H pawn? Oh, no, he goes for that. Okay. Odd. Bit odd. Okay, that's covered. Could go F6. Not sure I want to. I was thinking if bishop takes this, but just queen takes. If here, I'm getting into trouble. F6. I'm just going to play it to keep his rook out the game and secure the e-pawn. Time is a massive, massive factor. He's playing well. He's playing well by not taking. Uh-huh. And now this. I can take here with the queen. Now my rook doesn't hang. If we double up on the D file, it looks like game over. Okay. Okay. Bishop e4 looks like the cleanest way. This looks clean. Wait, you can't take because... Oh no, the rook is defended by the queen. More good moves. Check here, check here, check here. How do I win this? I guess just this. He doesn't actually have a threat, does he? No, he doesn't have a threat. There's no perpetual. My queen always covers the knight check. Where, you know, if pawn takes, maybe there's some perpetual thing, but... My god. Can he just lose? Okay, I'm going to throw in a couple checks to give me some time. How do I win this? G6? That looks wrong. Here? I'm just scared of the back rank. Maybe rook f2? Then knight g6, though. Oi, oi, oi. Okay. Queen c5, then knight g6. How is this fine? I think I've just drawn. Have I accidentally... I've just drawn that. Oh my god. No, my queen needed to be... Oh my god, I panicked with low time. Because I figured my queen needs to cover this. Because otherwise knight g6 is a problem. What's the win here? I mean... Engine likes rook e8, but it's scary, because if I take, I get back ranked. He doesn't have to go knight g6. Queen g4. I can't take because of back rank mate. Queen d3. Where's my win? Oh, queen d3 covers g6, hits the rook. And if I take and he gives a check, I have queen d8. I completely missed that. That's horrific. I have no idea how I've just drawn that position. That's so bad. This is the thing, though. Like, at this level, people just keep fighting, and my opponent made it really hard. That's so bad. That's so bad. I mean, I'm happy with the opening, but, like, that's not good enough in the endgame. I had enough time. I wasted my time, but let's see what the engine has to say. So, 78% for my opponent, 81.6 for me. The opening is fine. The opening is just very normal. Like, these are all normal moves, very non-committal. Taking is bad, and after d3, sorry, me taking is also bad. So neither of us want to take. Knight b7, bishop e3. So knight c5 is a mistake. Really. So the engine suggests taking. I know that's a viable move, but it's difficult practically. The point would be, like, take and a6. Practically, this is annoying. So the engine likes bishop c5. Why did I reject this? I think d4. That's what I didn't like. The engine doesn't care. It thinks bishop e7, c5, which I saw, queen b3, a b3, a6. I saw all of this. I guess we win the e4 square, and we play for e5. Oh my god, yeah, this is so simple. So, like, b4, knight e4, knight c3, and... Okay, maybe h6, making sure my bishop is fine. Or maybe the immediate bishop f6 and playing for e5. I mean, the engine suggests this, which looks very silly to me from a human perspective. So realistically, that wouldn't happen. Maybe I should be worried about this, but I guess I take the knight and then I take, so it's fine. So I don't even know what white plays here. Rook fd1. We castle. I like this for us. Bishop f4. h6. h4. This is just very normal. So knight c5 is bad because of queen c2. And a5 is considered a mistake. Why? cd5. If cd5, rook c1, knight fd7, then knight d4, bishop g6, knight b3, rook c8. Can't push because of this, so you have to move the queen first. And then after a4, d4, ab3, you have to find ab3. This is a bit complicated, but the point is the rook hangs. Knight d4 is not good. Bishop g6, rook c1 is a mistake because of knight g4. So white should have played cd5, cd5, knight b3, knight fd7, rook c1, rook c8, and then this, preparing to push, I guess. Can we offer a queen trade? d4. Oh no, my rook hangs. Okay. So, okay, we misplayed that with knight c5. We should have gone bishop c5, but knight g4 and we're winning. Bishop d2 is a mistake. e5 is a mistake. I should go knight d... Oh, I completely missed this. I completely missed this idea. Oh, that's very nice. And this is a problem. This is a problem. That's really nice. Queen d3, bishop e3, take. He takes. There's no counterplay. Well, wouldn't we take with the c-pawn? To keep the e-file shut? I don't know. So e5 is a mistake if white finds this. And after ed4, this. I saw this. White has to find knight a3. And after knight e5, knight c4, queen c4, rook d8. The engine says this is better for white. He has a pawn for a knight. Seems hard to prove. b4, a b4, bishop b4, knight d7, bishop f8, king f8, and then a4. Okay, then. He goes knight b3. We take, queen takes, queen f2, bishop c5 is the best move, e3, take is good, knight f2 is good, and then I feel like we actually played this endgame pretty well. And by the way, what I was on about with this position here was that I have a very easy threat. Queen g1, rook g1, knight f2, smothered mate. If my opponent tries h3, then queen g3. If takes, then check here and mate. So that also can't be played. And I'm threatening mate on h2 as well. So that's what I was talking about. And I mean, there's no other way to defend. The only way is e3. Engine suggests queen d1. Oh, there is that, actually. If take, then queen takes. But I guess the queen is very passive. And maybe I can just start rolling the pawn up the board. Engine wants queen e1, h4. Yeah, this is pretty bad. Like, take here, take, game over. So bishop e3, take, queen takes. Engine likes knight takes. And after rook g1, it wants bishop h5 and bishop f3, I think, which I didn't consider. Also take, queen f1, king here. Sorry, rook here. Here. Maybe there's this. That's inaccurate. Maybe there's this as well. If take, then this. If queen takes, bishop d3, meh. I thought I just wanted to get castled, though. I thought I'll get my extra material, I'll get castled, and I'll win this position. a4 was trying to bait this to go rook ab8, and then I take here, and I thought this should be pretty winning. Something like rook g1, bishop d3, but like, point is the white pieces are they can't do anything. So here, queen a3, queen d3, queen b4, rook ad8, knight e7, king h8, rook f1. We're both playing the best moves. Rook d4 is best. Bishop e4 is best. Oh my god, the bishop is pinned. Oh my god. There's a pin. I have mate in 1. I should be seeing that. That's really bad. White doesn't even have a threat. Oh my god. I'm still winning. This is all best. But now I just couldn't figure it out. What I was scared of was like... Let's say rook b2. Then I'm losing. Here. Rook f7. Queen c8. Did I calculate all this? No. But I thought I'm in a lot of trouble if I'm not careful. So I couldn't figure out a win. And I accidentally repeated the position because I was like, I need my queen to defend g6. So the way the engine wants to do it is with the queen here, it wants queen d4, king h1, queen e4, king g1, rook fd8. Are we playing for this? I guess white has no threat. We're covering g6. Yeah, the rooks are connected, of course. Oh, I can't believe I just repeated the position. I cannot believe that. I've just allowed a repetition. That's so bad. To be fair, I messed up in the opening with knight c5. My opponent had the right idea, but he didn't capitalize properly. And then I failed to capitalize in the endgame. So maybe that's a fair result, but hopefully it was an interesting game nonetheless. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. The previous episodes of the Climb 2 and Beyond 2200 in the players down there. And the there'll be another video appearing up here that YouTube thinks you're gonna like. But I'll see you in the next video. I can't believe I messed that up.